today we began, as most of you know, we are in a political season. So today we began our candidate interviews. So we figure, who better to start it off with than an incumbent? Hi, Mary. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic. It's a beautiful day outside, and all is well. You've been through this a time or two.
Once or twice, or maybe this might be 7 times. But
now let's get cranking. Because as you mentioned, you've been through this might be 7 times. As an incumbent, take a few moments, kind of give us an opening statement, and tell the voters why they should give you another term.
do I need to define myself first, or
however? Hey, it's your time.
Okay. Well, I think I do need to say I'm a mother of 4 and a grandmother now of 9. My family grew immensely for 1 year since July of last year. We added 5 more to our family. That's right. So can you imagine trying to get them all in for a family photo or anything? So we've been struggling with that a little bit. But when I was first elected, I think everyone knows that, and I've said this repeatedly over and over, that we were in Legislative Plaza, which was a maze. You were there. Mm-hmm. And so we all laughed and said, once we found the bathrooms and the cafeterias, the important things, then we tried to decide what we wanted to do. The most of us were for lower taxes and less government. Mm-hmm. And so Chairman Coley, he pulled 3 of us new people aside, ladies, mm-hmm. and he said, I have the perfect bills for you ladies. Mm-hmm. And just, he was the sweetest man. I don't know if you knew.
I don't think I knew.
He's from Memphis, and he passed away. God bless him. But he said, these are the perfect bills, and they were human trafficking bills. Mm-hmm. And then we didn't even know that it existed. We didn't know what it was. But we were proud to take the bills for him just the same. So, but come to find out that other people didn't want them. So he made us feel special, so we took those bills. So one of my very first bills was a human trafficking bill, and if a parent was convicted of selling their child for sex, mm-hmm. then once convicted, they lost their parental rights forever. And that's when I decided, being a mother of 4, and at that time a grandmother of 4, that's what I wanted to do. That's where I wanted to focus most of my attention on child advocacy and human trafficking. And now I serve on the Second Look, which is the cases that fall through the cracks with DCS. I serve mm-hmm. on that commission. I've been there, I think, I lose track of time, but at least 7 years. Mm-hmm. And then I now serve on the human trafficking, the TBI, Human Trafficking Advisory Council. So I serve on that as well. And so we had the Director Roush, he invited us up for a press release the other day, and he said himself that some of the bills that I had carried made the sting that they had just completed in East Tennessee possible to arrest a lot of those men. And they found 6 to 11-year-olds, and they found some porn, a lot of porn, and it was just, it made me feel really good to think that something that I had sponsored, I'm the one that says there is no I. When you get mm-hmm. up there, it's all a we, but it takes one person does sponsor it. Mm-hmm. And I sponsored bills that made that sting possible. And you just can't imagine how that made me feel. And that's why I keep doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Those are not pretty things. Mm-hmm. They're embarrassing things. They're things that should never be happening, and things that we should not have to have legislation for, but we do. And that's where I focused, at least, the whole time. That is what I focused. If you look at my bills in the background, at least 2/3 of the bills that I carry are some kind of child advocacy bills.
Okay. What role does empathy play in your decision-making process? What role, you talked about what you've been through. So what role does empathy play in that for you? When you think about what you've been fighting for, is that because, what drives that for you?
To see so many children abused, and so many drugs that have come into the country that are killing our children. Mm-hmm. And my lifestyle, my childhood wasn't the best, I will say that. But now to see those bills come into play and see that we are punishing those people that are so ugly to our own children. I think that's what keeps me going. When I see that taking place, and I'm on the foster care review board as well. So when you see those bills that they're enforced, it just gives you a good feeling of satisfaction. Does that kind of answer what you're talking about?
Yeah. Hey, this is your time. So you give us.
It's a great feeling when the director of the TBI, I keep wanting to call him a commissioner, but he's a director of the TBI. For him to say that the bills, and they were a few years ago, I don't even want to talk about it on the air because it's something that you would not dream of, that you would have to have legislation for. And they actually found things like that in that sting. And so they were able to arrest those people that had them there. And that just gives you a satisfaction.
Now give us your stance on political accountability and how you implement that, because there's a lot of things that come through, a lot of bills that come through, and from a political standpoint, what's your stance on political accountability, and how do you implement that stance?
Are you talking about the bills that come through, the ones I carry?
No, I'm talking about you personally.
Personally?
Yeah, on political accountability for all politics.
I read the bills, and I listen to my constituents, and I listen to my conscience, and then sometimes we have to make difficult decisions. But I always tell the truth. Lobbyists come in my office. I allow a lobbyist in my office, and as long as you're respectful, I allow anyone, constituents, and I try to stick to constituents because sometimes we don't have a lot of time for those that are not in the district. But if I have time, I try. I want to hear from the people of Tennessee.
So, how would you say these first 7 years has changed you as a person, or have they?
I'd like to say I haven't. I'd like to think that I'm smarter than when I went in, on how the process works and how to present. And, when you first get up there, it's a little bit nerve-wracking at the very beginning. You're kind of nervous when you go into the well to present your bill. And I'd like to think now that I'm a strong woman and that I've grown.
Now, there's been a lot of, and we can talk about this because you've been in the legislature. There's been a lot of give us your position on education as far as teachers are concerned, because there's been a lot of discussion about teachers and teachers, what teachers should be teaching, or what, and of course the legislation that passed that allows, teachers and staff to carry guns in school. Give us your position and I would like to address the gun issue because that was a big one and it brought a lot of attention. But I don't think even 80% of the people that read about it understood it, because we already do it in distressed counties. Teachers are allowed to if they want to, and it by no means is it we're going to arm every teacher or that we ever intended to. It was those teachers that really wanted to be armed, and they have to take a mental evaluation, a physical evaluation. They have to take 40 hours of training, just like if they're a SRO. And they have to be, they have to really want to do it. And then it has to be approved by the director of schools and the administration. Okay. All right. We're going to take a quick break. And I did vote for that, but because the distressed schools cannot afford SROs. Okay. So your reason for voting was because of the distressed schools? That was the main reason, but I think some schools, if some schools want it, we wanted to make it where they could allow it, but we also wanted to make sure that they were trained well enough and knew what they were doing before they would be allowed to carry a gun. But the question would be, the bill says 40 hours of training, right? But most police officers get more than 40 hours of training, so. Given from that perspective, would you have liked for the bill to carry more training for those who would want to carry teachers or designated individuals? And we can all think about that. There will be amendments and new bills next year that come up, and that might be something that we consider. Okay. All right, I need to take a quick break. Mary Littleton is with us today, making a stop by, and she is running for re-election to the 78th District, making up Dixon and Cheatham County, and she will be on the ballot. She does have the primary opponent, and we'll be talking with that opponent as well. We'll be talking to all of those who are on the ballot. We send invitations to all of the candidates for school board, for the House representatives, and those that accept. You'll hear them on this radio station. We'll be back in just a moment. You're tuned to the Power Lunch on 101.5 The Rock. All right, we are in the midst of talking politics. With us in the studio today is State Representative Mary Littleton, who is running for her next term, and she'll be on the ballot in the primary in July. And we're glad to have her here with us as well. Mary, one of the things that you guys one of the big debates, and the governor's one of his top priorities was school vouchers. Where are you on the governor's? Well, they would have to do it next session to come back and talk about it, because it's not something that got off the table, because there was a lot of disagreement about that. Where are you on school vouchers, and kind of give us your plans and what your thoughts are and the input that you're giving to the governor and his team?
Well, my input, I guess, is that we haven't seen a bill on the floor to actually, there were 3 different bills last year.
Yes.
So how can you say, wait, I'm not on education, and I know the House worked really hard on the House version, the Senate had a version, and the governor had a version. So there's no way that you can say where you're at on any of it, because nothing made it to the floor. Yeah.
But what would have to be in it to get your support or to lose your support?
I will say that we had 2 teachers that worked on it that are in the Republican caucus, and one was for it and one was against it. But the bill put $75 back per child back. The House version did back into the school, into the TISA for infrastructure, for air conditioning, for new build, to save up for new schools, for any kind of infrastructure that they might need. It gave the teachers a raise, and it also paid 70% of their insurance. And there was more in it, but it didn't make it to the floor. We're all in different committees, so it's really hard to keep up with all that. But I just can't say where I'm at until I see a bill that's going to be on the floor that we'll know what we're voting on. Well,
one of the things from everything that I've read with the bill is the House version of the bill was way more expensive than what the Senate version was, because of those things that you just mentioned that they put in, that was put into the House piece of legislation that they wanted.
But they were great things for the public school, because all of those were going into the public school. So, there's just no way to say, and there's no way to describe what they call it school choice or education freedom or vouchers, whatever you want to call it. There's so many names out there. They're all out there. But, until you actually read, it's like a contract. Could you sign a contract that you hadn't read?
I would hope you wouldn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I don't know, and I can't say where I'll be. I will say that, there was so much going into the public school in the House side, but it has to pass the Senate as well. Yeah, well,
there was in the governor's budget, there was $126 million put into the governor's budget now for education. And so there's something, I guess, more or less something that the governor has in mind, and those who support the voucher system have in mind, because there's money already in the budget.
And I haven't talked to the governor at all. Okay. And I didn't last time. His liaisons would come to my office, but I never talked to the governor last year over vouchers.
Over the school voucher, that's going to be, and it always is, it's a major issue, because the question is, do you take money out of the public schools so kids can go to private schools? Or is that money going to the kids that should go? Because there's a different accountability that private schools have than public schools.
It needs a lot of work. If it ever passes, it's going to have a lot of work. But this is what Representative Hastings said. in committee. And I'm just repeating what I've heard.
Yeah.
And he said, it's like this. It will come, and this will be the best opportunity, the bill that the House had last year, the best opportunity for everyone to get. And that's what he was saying. And he's from Perry County. And, and I tried to listen, but again, there's so much in it to read. I just waiting for it to make it to the floor before we even tried to discuss a whole lot of it. But I did try to keep up with it some.
Yeah. So if you were to be reelected, to win a primary, then be reelected in the fall, in November, what would be your top priorities?
You know what my top priorities are.
Well, tell the people.
My top priorities. Well, I just, and I think everyone knows that. I will remain very adamant about child abuse and bring it up the border. I know that we're not in control of the government or the border, but the fentanyl is coming across the border every day. And I read this morning, this morning when I got up, I read that a little 1-year-old, a 2-year-old and a newborn baby were exposed to the parents' cocaine. Mm-hmm. So, and then earlier, I guess last year, that Ariel Rose, 23 months old, got into the parents' fentanyl. She OD'd. Another 23-month-old got his dad's fentanyl out of the trash can, and he died. A 4-year-old, they had to Narcan a 4-year-old. Well, if a 4-year-old overdoses and they have to Narcan him, what has that done to that little boy, that little child? What has that done to his system? So I think we need to even try and research what that actually does to him. Then there was a mother that OD'd and died, and her baby starved to death.
How
so those are things I want to stop, and I don't.
How do you do? I mean, how do you address it? I hear what you're saying, and I totally agree with everything you're saying. Please don't misunderstand. But how do you?
Well, I'll explain a little of it to you, because we increased the penalties last year. Okay. I carried a bill that increased the penalties that if they live, but they overdosed the children. If they do, then the parents get a stronger penalty. But if the child dies, we raised it to a B felony.
A B felony.
If the child dies.
And that is.
And we have to do that, and we've got to learn that we cannot leave children in homes where, with the parents are on drugs. I mean, they have to be removed and put into recovery. We want them to have recovery. We want them to survive. We want them to come home and love on their kids and be productive citizens. But if they can't, those children can't go back in those homes. Well,
your priority has always been, ever since you've been in the legislature, has been kids and I commend you for that. But how do you with DCS? Because there's a shortage of people needed. There's a shortage of funds. How do you lead the charge? What would be your plan, I guess, of action to get more staffing? Because DCS has a staffing shortage.
Commissioner Quinn was in our committee in fiscal review the other day, and when she started, it was over 600, and now it's less than 200. So they've raised the wages for the caseworkers. They get more training, and that was my suggestion. That don't put them out until they're ready to go out. Because it's a difficult job to go out. And,
without a doubt.
And so they have a longer training for the new employees, the new caseworkers that come in, and again that they have higher wages. And so she's hired almost 400 people since she's been.
But do the previous employees benefit from those higher wages? They do. Okay, because. The other knock on DCS was some of the houses that they had,
the
transitional homes that they had, which really sit in the middle of neighborhoods and communities, and not necessarily great neighborhoods and communities.
They're almost gone. What they've done now is, do you remember Clover Bottom?
Yes.
Okay, so they've redone it, and they're making the transitional homes will be like enclosed in a fence and inside a building. I think there's 2 in each room, but there won't be those they're almost gone.
They're almost gone.
Because you can't just take them out. You've got to have a place to put them. So, and a lot of that was because there was no place to put them.
No.
So she's been working hard, recruiting or gaining buildings that the state already owned and transferring them into DCS's for the children in custody.
So what? Give us your stance on political accountability. How should we as constituents, those of us who are voting for those who are in office, how should we hold legislators accountable?
Look at our record, how we vote.
Okay, so if your record on how you vote, and a lot of it also depends on what that piece of legislation is.
Absolutely.
Okay, so give.
And I think it's if you always tell the truth and vote the way you say you're going to. That's accountability right there. To always tell the truth. I always try to make sure that there's a lot. Your constituents and your belief, your conscience makes a lot of difference in how you vote.
So would you say, and I know that I know because you and I have conversations. Would you say that most of your constituents know how you vote on particular bills?
I believe that. I do.
Okay.
And it's open record. I mean, they can watch us online. I was sick a few years ago, and I guess I was I was bored because I couldn't go to work. And I actually watched the committees,
Okay.
but it's interesting. And I hear, we see a lot of people and they'll say, well, they're texting, we're watching today. So, everything is live, everything, it is clear.
Now, would you say when you vote as a representative of the 78th district, would you say that your votes are reflective of your constituents or reflective of what you believe wholeheartedly? Or how does that work?
The majority of my constituents is how I vote.
Okay.
Most of the time, yes.
Now, how often have you? Because I get to talk to you, but I haven't talked to you in a while though, because you've been a little busy.
Well, let me throw this out here. I used to come on Fridays, and now we have the new grandbaby that came. And
so you put the grandbaby over my show.
Exactly. So we hadn't had a baby in 7 years, so that was like that shouldn't even be a question.
Look, I was feeling a little neglected. I'm not going to tell a story. I was feeling a little neglected. So yeah.
She's a sweet little thing, and she's almost a year old, but she makes a lot of noise, or I could bring her with me, but we wouldn't get very far with her. But yes, they're just, grandchildren are just the best thing ever.
Yep.
And she's the newest one. I haven't had a little one in 7 years, and I've just really enjoyed it. Actually, 7 years. So I've actually enjoyed it. No offense to you.
Yeah. I was wondering why your office kept counseling on me. Now I know. You never told me.
I never had the opportunity. That's where my office is. That's what Christian's for in my office. Yeah.
Now, do you or will you do town hall meetings for your constituents to keep them informed? We
did one last year, and there's one planned for July, but I don't remember the date. But
you got to tell us. We'd like to come.
It'll be. Well, I'm sure you'll get a notice, but
yeah.
But yes, it's in July.
Well,
we did it last year, or year before last, and you were there.
I've slept since then, and then you had a grandbaby. You get the final word. If this is your opportunity to tell our listeners why they should reelect Mary Littleton to the 78th District House seat.
And I think I'll just go back and repeat myself again that I don't concentrate on anything pretty or anything that gets you a lot of notoriety, but I concentrate on the safety of our children and the adults as well, the senior citizens, for the safety for our Tennessee.
Okay.
And in the 78th district. I mean, I just have to, that's why I'm there. That's what I've done, what I've concentrated on. And I would like to say, too, that for 10 years we tried to get the new judge, 10 years. And so this year I brought it across the finish line with a lot of help, but we did get a new judge. All I could hear we need a new judge. We've got to have a new judge. And, in 21, we had 2 death trials, in
the
Sergeant
23rd,
Baker,
yeah.
yes, in the 23rd Judicial District. And that being said, it just kept a lot of the judges busy on other things. And I have people come up and say, it took me 3 years to get a divorce, because they couldn't get into the civil thing, courts as well. So I think that's a good reason. I'm just there for the right reason, for the 78th District. I stay out and I try to go to as many things as I can go to, and people say, well, anybody can do that, but I support the community. I spend it's like all my free time. Except for Fridays when I have the baby. But, I try to go to the cattleman's dinner. I go to the chamber things, and that's supporting the whole community. And I'm there, and if people want to talk to me about stuff, but I meet people all the time at the coffee shop. If they want to come and meet with me and don't want to drive to Nashville, and I'll meet with them on the afternoons when I get in, or on the weekends, and I can take the baby to the coffee shop because it's not on the air. But anyway, anyone that wants to meet, I'm accessible. I love it. I love the 78th District, and when I go into a room and I can say, there's 200 people in here, and I work hard. I know 150 of you, but I represent 70,000 people, so you can't know 70,000 people. And sometimes you might have to remind me who you are, because you meet so many people. But I love being out in the community. I love trying to take it all back to Nashville to make it a safer place to live.
Well, Mary, I appreciate you taking time to come and meet with us today. And we're going to move your date, should you be reelected, off of Friday, so you can continue to come visit us. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Pam Edmonds from the Dixon County Help Center. You're tuned into the Power Lunch here on 101.5 The Ride. Don't forget, Election Day is coming. Early voting starts July 12th. I don't know why I said June. July 12th. And Election Day is August 1st. So make sure that you are registered to vote in your specific and particular district. We'll be back in just a moment.